Ready? Okay, we'll call the Board of Selectmen's meeting for July 16th, 2025 to order. Item 1, to consider and if appropriate, approve the minutes from July 2nd, 2025.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that. Any errors, omissions, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Item passes. Item 2, can I get a motion to go into executive session to discuss pending tax appeals? We'll invite in Attorney Perito with us.
Motion to go in executive session.
All right, I second that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Set? Okay. All right, can I get a motion to go back into regular session?
Make a motion to go back to regular
All
session.
right, second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
For the record, no votes were taken while in executive session. Can I get a motion to approve the proposed settlements for 137 Stony Creek Road, 219 Damascus Road, and 101 Stony Creek Road?
Motion to approve.
All right, I'll second that. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Get a motion to approve the proposed settlements for 16 and 17 Marina Village, Goodsell Point Road.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Item passes. Thank you, Attorney. Item 3, Inland Wetlands Commission appointment, Rachel Mursky, term to expire May 31st, 2028. This is a correction from the June 4th, 2025 Board of Selectmen approval. This reappointment was approved as an alternate and should have been a regular member.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, and I'll second that. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item passes. Item 4, reappointments. Housing Authority, Nadeem Atta, term to expire April 30th, 2030.
Motion to approve.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item passes. Item 5, correspondence. I do not believe we have any. Item 6, any other business? Any other, yeah, please go.
I'm Elisa Waterman, the RTM member, District 1. And I've come to kind of get some clarification and questions about the recent requests for proposals on the redevelopment of 111 Main Street and 11 Cherry Hill Road. So I'm aware, like from reading through the requests for proposals, that ultimately this will come before the RTM for approval of the land, selling of the land. And so I just wanted to kind of come and get a better sense of the process. There's questions that kind of come up through this so that we in the RTM can be more prepared for this process. And so one question that I had that on the first page of the introduction, project teams are invited to submit their qualifications for consideration by evaluation team comprised of representatives of the town. Mm-hmm. So one question I've had is what kind of evaluation team will there be? How many people who will be appointed to, how will the process happen?
Yeah, so the final team or makeup of the team has not been finalized. I've been working, this RFP was initially drafted through our planning office, through our town planner. As you know, was issued, the submission dates are required for, I think, September 15th, 2025. Prior to that, we will formalize a committee that is made up of various representatives from the town.
Can you be more specific on who will be on this?
No, because I haven't finalized that yet. So it'll be probably, myself, members from planning, economic development, various stakeholder groups of the town.
And so, will that include a representative from the RTM?
Possibly. Like I said, I have not finalized who the final stakeholder group will be.
And so will these proposals then, will there be public hearings? How will these proposals be vetted within the community? Because I'm sure people will have kind of strong feelings about how these historic buildings will be
Yeah,
used.
depending, I think really we want to, this is like, we just initially casted, a broad net, right? To see kind of what is the opportunity that may exist with these parcels. These are buildings that have been vacant for a number of years. I mean, the Canoe Brook has been being utilized as swing space, which it currently is. It's important to note that really nothing through this process is binding the town to moving forward with any proposal. It's really, to kind of see what type of interest there is from, and hopefully attract some, well-qualified developers to kind of show what their vision is, and that it aligns with the town's plan of conservation and development to kind of repurpose these buildings. I think, as far as the process, which I said, as far as the committee, the stakeholders, and there is a scoring criteria that is outlined, but also I think, in terms of the committee itself to finalize that short list, that is kind of yet to be determined. I think we want to see.
This program was brought.
But the scoring is
You're
basically
watching-
just a percentage. It doesn't actually have very stringent criteria about
Right.
how these will be.
Well, that's required as part of the RFQ process to have it stated what the weighting will be. But as far as the process, what I was just saying, as far as the membership of the committee, the reviewing team, and how we ultimately select to make a recommendation, which, again, as you noted at the beginning of your questions, not only goes to the RTM, but will also go to the Board of Selectmen, and beside even just the regulatory process, but just in terms of planning and zoning for an 824 referral is a requirement. So there are a number of meetings that are public meetings and allow public comment. And so this body, the RTM, which you are a member of, as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission, will ultimately be part of the process before even moving to the second phase of that process.
But the first phase is really the selection that will be selected before planning, and, my understanding is will be before any planning and zoning or any,
Well,
will there be public
right.
conversation
Yeah.
before the selection?
And again, that's why I said, when we have the selection committee of various stakeholders, and based on, what kind of response we'll have, I think we'll determine, how that short list is created.
So as part of this, the development goals should be kind of contributing the goals of the POCD, but according to the town charter, like it says, land's supposed to be sold basically to the highest bidder. So how will those things be reconciled?
Well, you're referencing that, not the charter, the town code.
The town code. Yeah.
And actually, if you go, I think that's 73-1 you might be citing. Or if you go to 73-2, it clearly states that the Board of Selectmen, this body, may waive those bid requirements in the best interest of the town. So that is in our town code. I would argue that without going through this process, how would you know what is in the best interest of the town? So that's why I see this as the first step in a long step. And as you probably read through the RFQ, this is easily an 18-month to 2-year process. It's a lengthy process. There's a lot, and due diligence that is done, not only on the town's part, but also the developer's part.
But according to this, there's, again, it is a long process.
Did I answer your question regarding, so you agree that we're not in conflict with town code, because no land has transferred nor been sold, and that decision would come later.
Yes, so, but it's still then justifying if it is not the highest bid. You're saying that it can be overruled by.
Well, that 73-1 is what you're referencing.
Yes.
Read 73-2, that says the bid requirements, may be waived if the Board of Selectmen unanimously votes and deemed in the best interest.
Can waive that, okay.
Right, so therefore, that would not have to necessarily go to the highest bidder, it's what is in the best interest. If we were to just go out and straight, market these properties or sell these properties, as was, just put them on, we would have to go through a bid process where it would just solely go to the highest bidder. But I don't think, this is, I think we should really look at, what is in the future of those properties. And we are currently in control. Before we divest of these properties, we want to have some reassurance of how they'll be repurposed and reutilized. So it is in the best interest of the town.
And then
beyond just a one-time monetary hit, gain, it should be, I think, the redevelopment that really contributes to the quality of life in town, the vibrancy of town, the overall economy of town.
So why now? Why is this bid put out now for buildings that have been in town ownership for, a century, and they've been empty for a really long time? So why now?
Okay, you say a really long time. As I said, Canoe Brook has been utilized for the last several years as swing space, both for the animal shelter and is currently being utilized for the police station project. We expect that'll be completed over the winter time, and that the use will no longer there. So there was a purpose or use for the Canoe Brook at that time. I think the post office bill and the Board of Ed for the last couple years has been, since they relocated central office to the Walsh Intermediate School, has been vacant. So really, it's what is the process to kind of evaluate what is the future of that parcel. And again, there's different ideas how to approach this. Some are just sell it, some are just hold on to it. You hear from people. I think we should see what is the potential. The town needs to understand what is the potential of repurposing that site. So that's where, in talking with the town planner, who's, has experience in kind of going through these types of processes, and in my conversation with them, and we elected to now move forward on kind of seeing what is the potential.
And so it's kind of a trial balloon, it sounds like, to see.
It's not, we want to, certainly, we expect that, those who are responding, and that's why there's even a good faith deposit that has to be part, that these are, qualified developers who have, the means and the experience, and that's what you can see that's laid out in the RFQ, that they have to have the means and the experience and the history of completing projects. And, so I wouldn't say it's just a trial balloon, but I think we're hoping to, as I said at the beginning, cast a broad net to kind of see there may be some use that we're not have contemplated. There may be something that, to kind of, come forward and have those buildings repurposed in a manner that we have not considered yet or thought of. So I don't think it's a trial balloon. I think it's really kind of, seeing what are true opportunities. And we really have opportunities to repurpose these two parcels in a very productive way. And this is the first step in doing that. I'm just, as far as, like I said, nothing is by this solely issuing this solicitation and receiving respondents doesn't bind the town to accept one as if, or to select one just solely on because they were the highest bidder. We want to surely, have this a vetted approach to ensure that it does, kind of contribute to the town.
Are the timing seems pretty aggressive, that basically to have a selected project team 1 month after the proposals are due? Is that fairly aggressive?
You're saying from the response to having one selected?
Yeah, so it's a selected project
I think there's
team
even language in there that says, that was kind of a guiding document. If needed, if we had it to move those, we could, but I think we also wanted to kind of put a framework in so that we would try to hit these certain milestones. But if for some reason, whether it's meetings or groups, a final decision isn't made, but that's not a hard date, but it's more of the milestones that we hope to hit.
So if there's a project team, say there's 10 proposals, a project team is selected by this committee, and then they start going through a process, and then it will have to be going through planning and zoning, through all of
once
the
the project team,
More than that.
Once, say there's a project that is selected, right? A project team that is selected to advance. Again, one of the, you'll see that phase, I think it's phase 2, or,
Yeah.
after, that's really where they're doing their due diligence and spending some real dollars in terms of what can be done in terms of, design and engineering cost. But prior to that there would be a vote by the Board of Selectmen, there would be a vote by planning, a review and a recommendation, that's the 824 review, that's a statutory requirement by planning and zoning for their favor, for their review, and then it would go to the RTM, which then the RTM, because of that 70,
The land use.
the
yeah,
land use disposition of town land, if we were to transfer or encumber any land, requires RTM approval. It would go to the RTM for that.
But
To
that's-
have that, because,
Before October 15th, all of that?
no, after the October 15th. Once, October 15th is the milestone to have a plan that is, a project that is selected. Selected by the team that is reviewing.
A committee.
The committee. But it still needs to go through all the regulatory process and the legal process, which includes Board of Selectmen, Planning and Zoning. This is all after the October 15th date. And finally, RTM. The RTM is required to take action because before any team, I would expect, expends significant dollars, they want to have that action by the RTM that they are supportive, approve of the transfer or the sale of property.
And so what happens then if there's a team selected and it does not make it, through some of these regulatory boards, there are voted against it? Will there be backups? Will there be other options?
Yeah, I think, it states even that there's a short list, so I think if something, it doesn't prevent the town from going in another direction.
And so that there will be, so even though if someone doesn't make it through the first round, they may make it later if the first choice
Well,
doesn't go forward.
if for whatever reason, the development team no longer finds the project feasible, or if there's something that has changed from their original concept that we don't feel is in our best interest, both parties can elect to not proceed any longer.
And so then, so maybe I would just ask as consideration for the team, obviously the other stakeholders are for selectmen and planning and zoning, so it sounds like they're definitely going to be represented on the team. So it'd be great for there to be RTM representation on the team also as a stakeholder that will ultimately need to approve it. And then will those meetings of that team be public?
They'll be, they'll have to be noticed in public, I think, at some of, initially, because of what is required. I just have to confirm some of the information at the initially will maybe private, not public information if we're getting, so I think, but certainly when they go to select and make their decision, that would be a public process. But the initial responses there may be, depending, I'll just have to confirm with both the attorney and planner, there may be some information that comes in initially that might be confidential.
I think it would be good to understand, what their it's clearly there's some criteria, like what criteria, what were considered, what was the process. So I think that would be great. Okay.
Well, and again, I think you're going to find it's going to be a very public, and though you're raising some good questions and I appreciate them, I think at the end of the day, it's going to be a transparent process in terms of how this ultimately what comes forward. I mean, the town has been presented with projects and proposals in the past where, that have, through, both, that may include private development or transfers that, did not go through a process. So such as this. And that's why we laid out this, and this is issued to the public, and it's publicly noticed, and the process. So when it does come forward to these meetings that I mentioned, Board of Selectmen, Planning and Zoning, and RTM, there is a process that we can state that we follow to get to this decision.
But then it doesn't, again, like, one of the important parts is this committee, and it doesn't say specifically when the committee will be appointed and what the, like,
Yeah, well,
the committee.
that's not necessarily, I don't think germane for the, this is what was issued out to
Yes.
the respondents. They're not, well, when is the committee? That's not something that you would typically find in an RFQ, RFP.
Yes, but in thinking about, like, you're seeing that this document is used as the public notification that
Yeah.
this is happening and that these
Right.
properties are being, and kind of what the process is and the process for approval through, the town bodies. So I'd say from the, like, transparency around the process, it would be awesome to understand better, again, the committee makeup, have some way of knowing who, that is and in preparation. So I know as a fairly new member of the RTM, it's
Yeah.
good to kind of be ahead of what things will come to us so that we have the opportunity to be part of the process, involved in the process, and kind of ask our questions and understand, as part of this process.
Am I correct from what I heard tonight? Because I think this is new to everybody, as you know.
Yeah.
Based on the timeline that I heard this evening, I believe that this board, as it sits now, in the RTM as it sits now, was going to be different by the time this goes to them. So there may be
Right.
different,
Yeah.
there will be, I'm guessing now, I hearing this, different members will be getting on there, whoever the selectman should be, and different RTM members. So I think this is going to be like a living document to some extent, this committee, where it's going to be rapidly
Yeah.
changing, and I didn't know that until tonight either.
Right, and that's, good point, because that was something that came up in the discussion about the timing of releasing this, and, it will not be the current makeup of the Board of Selectmen that ultimately, it will not be, well, it may come to us prior, there may be an action, but for the RTM, which requires that, kind of
Yeah.
that last step that was there,
Right.
that will be the next RTM. I
That
mean,
will be-
because the timing just won't work. As you know, mid-October is going to be your last regular scheduled meeting. And I don't think something like this would be, I wouldn't advocate to kind of push to have it rushed through or acted on as a group going out. I think this is something, as I said, this is a process that's going to take several months, if not, ultimately up to a year and a half to 2 years to really, from start to kind of finish.
Okay,
So,
thank
all
you.
right.
I appreciate your feedback.
Yep.
Thanks.
Dan Haley. When this takes place, is this going to interfere with the central revitalization?
You're talking about the Main Street?
Yeah, Main Street, yeah.
No.
Why wouldn't it? That building is right on the corner of Monterey Street and Main Street.
Yeah, I would,
Or at least the old post office / Board of Ed building is.
right.
Now, I can see maybe the old Canubrook School maybe not involved in that, but I would think that there would be some impact in the center of town. If a developer buys this,
Based on use.
he's not going to wait until until the revitalization in the center of town is done, I wouldn't think. So he's going to have some impact, no? Has that been even thought about?
Well, because I think your schedule is off. Unfortunately, as you know, the revitalization has not started. But
Yeah, right.
But it's slated to start. I think that project in the road reconstruction that'll take place in the sidewalk reconstruction and that's going to take place will be in advance of any ultimate transfer of this.
But we don't have any assurances of that. I mean, this is supposed to have taken place this summer, and it
Yeah,
didn't.
but I don't know, so
So,
Well, okay,
no, I'm just saying that I think that should be part of the consideration, is that there may be more impact to this than just looking at it from a point of view of, well, that's a project and this is a project, and they're not going to have any impact in either one of them. But
Because
if
they
a
could have an
developer
effect
comes,
on each other,
Yeah.
possibly because of the timing or
The
use.
time-
I don't know.
well,
Yeah.
anyway, it's
Listen, I-
just
yeah, I mean,
a thought process.
Certainly how those, whatever the reuse of that building and how that comes out through and interact, kind of, whether there's a change in circulation and pedestrian circulation, we wouldn't know, but we're not moving Main Street, we're not moving Montoise. There may be activity that has to, but that's common for any work that may be done. That'd be even for a building that's not town-owned.
Well, how much.
We know there may
But
be
you know
some
how much
buildings.
fun traffic flow is even now
Yeah.
in the center of town. So, and every
Well, I
day,
think a developer
it's a different workaround.
Yeah.
And so you're going to double that, or at least you're going to have another project and a more major project working on that. So I'm just saying that's something that should be considered. You speak of stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders here?
As I said, they're yet all completely, the committee isn't fully defined yet in terms of who the stakeholders are. But
And
when
are
I
you-
consider-
are you the one
when
that
I-
is-
When I consider stakeholders, I would say that we probably want to have somebody who's representing just the community, people, community at large, the business community, we have possibly, historical society. I mean, there's a group of people that currently sit not only on various boards and commissions, which you could argue are all stakeholder groups, but I think the community at large needs to be represented as well. So as far as the exact membership and numbers, that has not been fully defined at this point, admittedly. But again, the stakeholders are, like I said,
May I make
touch
a-
upon those groups that I just mentioned.
Well, I'll make a suggestion.
Sure.
I think that you should have an architect involved in this, because we have some terrific architects in town. And they should be involved in this, since both of those buildings are historic buildings. And even though the Historical Society can give us some great background on the significance of those buildings, architecturally, it's always nice to have that extra information. And like I say, we have tremendous architects in town. What is the status of Public Works? At the end of this month, that lease is up, right? So where is Public Works going now?
That is under negotiations as we speak, both in terms of there will probably be a temporary, there will be a temporary location,
And where's that?
and, no, it's under negotiations, so.
So there's a little lack of transparency. You got basically 2 weeks.
I'm aware of the time that we have, and I've
okay.
been talking to both property owners and for both, representatives from both buildings, so I'm fully aware of the time allotment.
Well,
And
I'm not so
we're
su-
looking at a couple buildings in terms of, for a temporary location, and we're also looking for a permanent home for Public Works.
Well, one of your campaign platform items back when you first ran was that you were going to do something to get a permanent place for Public Works. And there was a complaint because Uncle Ross wanted to do it in the Tabor area, and the Republicans had a big uproar about it. No, we can't do it there, it's not a good place, da-da-da. We're going to find a place. Well, here we are, over a decade later, and you say, well, I'm looking for a place. That it doesn't give the public a lot of confidence.
Well, to that point, I will go on the record once again and say I would not support Public Works going down to the Tabor site. I know it's
but you won't
involved.
support any place right now because you won't give us a place.
No, that's not- yeah.
And
So-
the public doesn't know
So,
where
can I
this is going to
finish?
be done.
You asked a question, can I
Yeah,
finish?
okay.
Because
I'm responding to his comment. You said that.
Yeah, but let me,
It will-
you.
Okay, go ahead.
Please.
Go ahead.
I'm not going to belabor this, because, and as I said many times, in many meetings since then, you are correct. One of the things we wanted to look for was a permanent home. I was actually, when Public Works, we were first entering a lease agreement at the current location, it was on the floor of the RTM, and I stated, you know what, I had concerns without having a plan that we would end up staying there much longer than we anticipated, and wouldn't have a plan. And I was skeptical of the lease arrangement. I will say, in terms of, and I give, I've stated this, as far as for this past 15 years that they've been there, the Public Works Department has made it work. It was a favorable arrangement to the town in terms of the cost of it. And under those past 15 years, particularly the last few years, I think the department has truly expanded in what they've done and what they do. Certainly, as you know, or those in town, the town has undertaken many projects and over this past 12 years since taking office. In doing it, as I said, that arrangement, was an ideal location? No. I think you're going to be hard pressed to find an ideal location. Did the department make it work? Yes. Was it financially, was it a good deal for the town? Was it financially advantageous for the town for that period? Absolutely. And it allowed us to do a lot of other things in this town over that period of time. Now we find ourselves in a situation where we were under the impression, or we were having discussions with kind of entering into a long-term agreement with our current location. We were then notified this past spring that they were no longer going to pursue a long-term agreement. They had another opportunity that they felt was in their best interest with the other tenant that is in the building. I recognize, why they made that decision. That is when we started to look for both initially, what could be the permanent location for Department of Public Works. As time went by, we realized we'd also have to look for a temporary location. But as I've said to others, and I'll state again on the record, my plan is to come forward with both not only the temporary, but also give what the final location should be, or the permanent home of Department of Public Works. Because I don't want the next administration or the town to fall in the same spot that we are currently. So that's why I'm doing everything I can at this moment to ensure, I'm not looking just for a temporary location. I'm going to solve that issue, but more, what is the permanent location? And that will come forward as stated in the last month.
Okay, so you've had 12 years to find that ideal situation, which you said didn't exist 15 years ago, but now it's going to exist, I guess. Now, wait a second, let me finish. So you are now afraid of passing this off to somebody else, and you had 12 years in which to do something about this, and you didn't. It's all great until it isn't great, and now it isn't great. And all of a sudden now we're caught scrambling, and I've asked you about the Public Works garage, at least for the last 2 to 3 years, at least. And you've always blown it off as, and you've just done that. And now, when it comes forward, you're trying to scramble saying this, and it just seems to me it's a lack of planning here, and it's a lack of foresight. And that type of lack of foresight worries me about this whole thing with this central redevelopment in Main Street and these 2 new projects here. This foresight, I think, is, you mentioned that you want divest of this, of these two properties, and I'm thinking maybe we should keep these properties and reuse them, because there's plenty of things we can reuse them for. That discussion should be at least had, and I'm not sure it will be. Not under your administration, anyway.
Yeah, well, I'm only here till November, so clearly it won't happen. So you clearly didn't understand, either you're intentionally or you didn't catch what I had said, because in your response, and that's why I apologize for going to interrupt, because you misstated what I had said. But I think we'll just end it there unless you have more to say. But as I stated, for those who were paying attention, you know, the last 12 years was, you know, was the building, the department in terms of public works made it work. We were in talks to do a long-term agreement. I stated that, so it wasn't as if nothing was being considered. The surprise came at the end of this. And we'll address the issue. So I'm not that concerned.
Yeah, well,
thank you.
Yeah, okay. Like I say, though, it works until it doesn't, you know.
Yeah, that's typically how things are.
Based on the rumors that are all over the world about some of the projects, and I can't say it here, but what would the process be if we decided to, if you should decide, go forward and say purchase a piece of property, just so everyone knows? Am I right that you would first go to the Board of Finance, and then, I don't know if it comes to us first or whatever, discuss, but probably just goes to the Board of Finance, and then would make its way to the RTM? And
Correct.
So that's a timeline that we're working on right now.
Correct.
Before we close out. Okay.
Correct, yeah. Public
Yeah,
Works,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
Yep,
So that's going to be coming rapidly
Yes,
at any
yep.
pace.
all right.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, second, all in favor, say aye, aye. Thanks.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.